Hey everyone, my name is Lily and I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to share with you my thoughts about Ruin and Rising. So this will be the last video of the three-part Grishaverse Shadow and Bone trilogy reading reaction video series. If you really liked watching me kind of go through these from a perspective of now based on the hype, then definitely let me know, because I'm thinking about trying to do maybe a series for like The Cruel Prince or, something else like that. But today I wanted to talk to you about the first part of my thoughts about Ruin and Rising. You'll see the second part as well, but today I'm just filming the first part because I'm about just over 50% through. I don't have a physical copy with me. I took this out from the library because I hadn't decided if I wanted to commit to getting the one with like the Netflix sticker on it. I was still kind of hoping that I might find like a used copy online that doesn't have that sticker. I don't know if you saw, but I basically don't really like the Netflix stickers on the cover. It's also not a sticker, it's printed on the actual dust jacket, and so I just hoped I could kind of get around it, and we'll see basically. But I have it on my phone. With all of the videos in this series, I also just want to remind you that there will be spoilers. So before I kind of jump into the next part, there will be spoilers for Siege and Storm, there will be spoilers for Shadow and Bone, and for Ruin and Rising, so just be warned if you haven't seen the title. So I guess in Siege and Storm, when I was looking back on it after writing my review, when I first finished Siege and Storm, like in my notes app essentially, in my reading reactions video, you can kind of see that I was struggling with the plot movement overall. And then as I was writing my review, I was kind of thinking the same things, that like a medium amount of stuff happened. But yeah, a lot of things had kind of happened, but then had been all these setbacks. And so at the end, if you just looked at like the beginning and the end point of view, not anything in the middle, I felt like there wasn't that much movement between them. But then when I was starting Ruin and Rising, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that Alina kind of lost her powers. So, I would say a medium amount of stuff happened, but I just wanted to kind of talk about that because that was certainly one of my things that I didn't like as much about Siege and Storm, was that I didn't feel like there was a lot of like crescendo movement. I felt like there was just a lot of kind of like this graphic movement that I don't even know what it's called in math. But yeah, so I'm gonna hop right into the Ruin and Rising thoughts. This is my first, for the first 50%. So, I have some interesting thoughts. So first off, I was interested to know, or I was interested in Ruin and Rising to see this kind of connection between this religious saint kind of, I wouldn't say fanaticism, but this religious take on Alina as being a saint, and also how that affected Alina. In Siege and Storm, I was talking about how Alina basically explicitly says that saint and heroes have a really short life, and that is 100% true. So I was interested to see in Ruin and Rising how that might change, or that how it might like impact her own beliefs about herself and like beliefs in general. And I guess also within the crew, right? Her beliefs within the like that kind of element. So I had a lot of thoughts still about Melina. So Alina and Mal and the Darkling and Nikolai. So I have a lot of notes towards like about 2/3 of 50%. So for math peoples, that must mean something to you. But basically, I was thinking, why does Alina want to forgive him? The Darkling, basically. And so I still don't see the morally gray villain thing. Like, I don't know. I just still don't see it. I also was still a little bit, like, frustrated with the Mal and Alina thing, right? So I thought that in Siege and Storm, we were done with it. And I was like, bye. I don't mind them being friends, but I was just like, goodbye to the romance aspect. But Ruin and Rising seems to continue that thing, and it seems to be like another added level of frustration, because it's like Mal is thinking, oh, it's not only that we can't be together because you're destined for greatness, like you're destined for more, and I just can't be with you. And it's just like, well, I mean, could you not be with her, right? So I guess Mal's point is that she should be with like a prince, or someone super powerful, and like Mal's just like, oh, I'm not powerful. So I mean, I don't I kind of am frustrated by that again because I thought that we were done with Mal and Alina. As I've said multiple times, I kind of just want Alina to like go off, become this gigantic sun summoner figure, and then just be like, I don't need anybody. I can do everything on my own. So I guess we'll just see. And then obviously, in the first half of Rune and Rising, there are tons of like plot twist revelations. The Mal and Alina thing, I just have a bunch of notes where it's like, we want what we can't have, bonds which we've outgrown and which are broken. And then I'm kind of wondering if the power and the quest for power will destroy Alina, and I don't know, maybe not. I'm only halfway through. And then also, while we're on the topic of Melina, also the idea that Mal sees, so this was kind of confusing for me and I still don't know how I feel about it. So basically, when Alina and Mal, and I think, is it Tolia? And I think someone else is there too. It's not Zoya. Maybe it is Zoya. Okay, maybe when two other people are there, basically they say, I think Zoya says that Mal sees Alina not for her power, but for Alina, which I don't honestly, it's not that I don't agree with that, I just feel like Mal sees past Alina, not present Alina. And maybe his recognition of her being destined for greatness is supposed to be that he sees like present Alina as well. But I just feel like there are so many stories where princes and commoners, like so many stories where people of differing stations end up being together and being with the person they love. And so I just feel like where there's a will, there's a way. And I know that that doesn't work for everything, of course, but I just feel like they're in the woods most of the time. Like, Alina's not a queen. They're in the woods. Like, who really cares what happens in the woods, essentially? So, but then Toya also says, or Tolia says that the way that Mal looks at her is like a flame that he can't get enough of before she's gone. So that's not the actual quote. That's like a paraphrase of what I wrote in my notes. And I don't know. I basically, this interaction where they're both kind of referring, or they're both talking about how Mal sees Alina and how Mal loves Alina, I'm like not sure how I feel about either of those perspectives, because I just feel like both of them are just, for me at least, are not hitting the mark, like are just a little bit not right to how I feel about them. But anyway, so let's talk about the plot twist in the first half of Rune and Rising, which was just like pew 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 pew. So the first one was that her and the Darkling may be cousins, and I was just like, what? What? And it's like, okay, I guess, but then it was also like, but then you were like really into him, and as Alina says, like, they kissed, but like more things happened, essentially, is basically what she says. And so I was just like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. And then how Nikolai like gets, I don't know, turned dark, and now he becomes this like essentially giant like golem-y creature that's tracking them, and I was just like, what is going on? And at that point I was thinking, well, you went from 3 down to 1, right? So it's like so it's like Mal, Nikolai, and the Darkling, and then it's like, well, the Darkling's your cousin, so that's a no. And then Nikolai is now turned into this like creature who is not conscious really, so that's another no. And then you have Mal, how convenient. And so that's kind of how I felt, and I was just like, is this convenient? Or is this like, I don't know. So far my thoughts about Rune and Rising have been wondering if things are convenient and there for the plot, or like right. And I think that that's really hard as a reader to distinguish, because we're not in the headspace of the writer, so like we don't know also the other things that could have happened. But yeah, I don't know. That just felt so convenient. But then it's revealed that Mal is actually probably cousins with the Darkling, and so I guess the Darkling's back on the table. I mean, I feel like for the sake of the world, Nikolai eventually will also have to be cured, but it just felt like a little Now thoughts about the first half. I think things did feel convenient, but also now that Mal is like the amplifier, I don't understand actually why she has to kill him, because it seems that when she's like next to him, he amplifies her power, right? She mentions all these events where like, oh, when we like kissed, then I was like super, super powerful, and then when we had like confessed our feelings or whatever, then I was also super powerful. So I feel like if these events are happening and Mal is not dead and strung up around your neck, then why does Mal have to die? I guess someone will explain that to me, but it's like maybe if maybe those interactions can only work for like grand gestures, and maybe if he was a bone on her wrist, then she could use that amplifying power all the time. So I don't really know how I feel honestly about the first half of Rune and Rising. It is definitely something that I did not expect, and you know, we'll see if that's good or bad, I guess. So I'm going to talk to you about my reading reactions to the second part of Rune and Rising. I have not written my review yet. I feel like sometimes when I write my review, I get a little bit of a better sense about how I feel about the book. So true to the titles, these are just my reactions. Pretty genuine and pretty unfiltered reactions. I have a lot of really complicated thoughts about the last half of Rune and Rising. So let's just talk about my first kind of bulk thoughts, and then let's talk about my overall thoughts. So I thought that it was interesting that there's this sort of role reversal where Alina has to promise Mal that if anything happened, she would end his life, where like in, I think, Shadow and Bone? In Shadow and Bone, Mal promised but then actually didn't, and so that was almost just like, that was one of the things that was one of my big reactions in Shadow and Bone. So I loved how there was this role reversal in Rune and Rising. Also courtesy of the Dark Lane. Here's my makeup today. And so I guess what I wanted to clarify, especially for the end of Rune Rising, is that it's not like I don't like Mal and Alina, or Melina. It's just that I felt like, specifically in Siege and Storm, they like couldn't be together based on Mal and based on Alina and the states they were in at that point. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not that it's not that I hate Mal or hate Alina or hate them together. It's literally just because I felt like in Siege and Storm, Mal very much kind of wanted to be with an Alina that was never going to be graspable or like never going to be there again. So I guess what I was thinking about as well was like, if Alina is the Sun Summoner at the end, which of course, like, because of the title and the spoilers, and because you probably have read Rune and Rising when you watch this, is not actually what happens, but I felt like if she is Sun Summoner at the end, why does she need to have a crown or an alliance? Like, why can't she just be a powerful Sun Summoner Grisha, right? Why does she have to tie herself to like one nation? Or I don't really understand that, and maybe it's because at that point she would become such a powerful weapon that she needs to use it to like further Ravka, maybe, but I just felt like no one's really explained to me why that has to happen, so I'm not on board with it, essentially. Okay, from a plot perspective, I was very confused by how when Alina gets the third amplifier, like, she doesn't have any powers anymore. So let's chat about that. I just felt like it made no sense to me. I understand that throughout this whole book and throughout like the last book as well, they're definitely setting it up to be like, yo, when you get the third amplifier, you're gonna be so powerful, it's gonna be so dangerous, we might have to stop you, like. But I see the threads that were kind of present at the beginning, as in like the third amplifier really could just be way too much, and you would have way too much power, and you'd just be like, just way too powerful for anyone to handle, really. So I understood that. I just did not expect it then to be that like then she would have no power, and then also that Mal would have no power, right? So that the Moza blah blah blah, I don't remember his name, and I also don't know how to say it, but that his like powers essentially would just go away from Mal and Alina. So I guess I just finished this last night, so I'm still kind of reeling from this revelation, and I just don't really get it. I feel like, okay, maybe, yeah, I don't know. No, I just don't get it. I understand that maybe in Ruin and Rising, there are a lot of things that have a poetic, almost cosmic rightness, but the thing that is struggling, or the thing I'm struggling with, is that it doesn't feel right to me. So I'll talk about that in a second. I did like how they kind of talked about how the fact that Alina and Mal don't have any powers anymore, it definitely is a sort of grief. A loss of like a part of them that they felt was super essential to them, almost like a loss of a piece of themselves. So I did like that that was kind of touched upon. I felt like it could be touched upon a little bit more, especially for Alina. But, you know, I was surprised when I saw that I only had 2 chapters left, and I saw that I was like 70% through the book. I was super confused. So I felt like maybe if the last half of chapter 18-ish or whatever had been a tiny bit longer, it would have helped me kind of given the closure I needed for Alina and Mal to kind of say goodbye to their powers and really process that grief, essentially. And I guess that's why there was that after kind of epilogue chapter about Mal and Alina living their lives. But yeah, I just felt like it would have been nicer to have a little bit more introspection than we got. Oh, and then also one of my final reactions before we talk about my kind of overall reactions is that I now understand why it's called King of Scars for Nikolai's story, I guess. I haven't actually confirmed this on Goodreads. But I'm now actually more excited to read King of Scars than I thought I would be, because I really liked Nikolai. I thought he was like a cool dude. I felt like, you know, I liked his sarcasm, I liked his cleverness, I liked his, you know, I liked how kind of funny but also guarded he was. So, you know, I'm more excited to read King of Scars than I thought I was going to be. So let's chat about Melina and let's chat about cosmic rightness. So as I said earlier, I feel like in Ruin and Rising there are a lot of things that made a kind of writing poetic justice, writing cosmic rightness. So the thing about the 3 amplifiers and then like poof, no magic, or the thing about also Mal and Alina, right? I felt like a lot of these things had a sense of, okay, I understand the seeds that you are placing throughout the books, and I understand why this has to be the ending, but I felt like it was a little bit frustrating for me, and I don't know, maybe I'm like in the minority here on that one, but I felt like I've had some series in the past that have had that quality where it's ended in a way that felt cosmically right. So what I mean by cosmically right is like a lot of the things, you know, the elements of the plot have been enacted upon and resolved and everything feels right. And, you know, all of these different threads are coming together in a way that is good and is right for the book. It's not necessarily something that's like, there's a difference between cosmic rightness and sort of what we might expect. So I don't want to give spoilers, obviously, to any other books, but it's kind of like some things that are right for the book sometimes may be bittersweet or disappointing for the reader. Because just times characters are going to do what they're going to do, worlds, plots, governments, they're all going to do what they're going to do, and sometimes it just doesn't align with what you might particularly want. And that's kind of what I mean by cosmic rightness. You can take a step back and be like, okay, I appreciate how this author put these seeds, maintained this integrity of the character, maintained the world building or the integrity of the political system, or the lack of integrity of the political system, versus kind of, oh, I want all my friends to be happy and I want like everything to be, you know, whatever, and I want my fan casty ending to be real, right? They're 2 different things. And so for me, I guess for Ruin and Rising, I can see that element. I can see that cosmic rightness element, but on a like reader personal level, I'm just kind of like a little bit frustrated, I guess. Or I just feel a little, I guess I don't feel finished, if that makes any sense. I know that I just finished this book really recently, so I haven't had time to really sit with my thoughts and have to type it out, but that's kind of how I feel. And so as I said, I understand why there are all these threads about the 3 amplifiers being too powerful for one person, which, I totally agree with that. And also Mal and Alina having this will they, won't they, can they get over it, can they not get over it kind of thing. And also I think Mal and Alina are cute. As I said in the very, very beginning, I definitely deeply empathize with like childhood friends to lovers, you know, that's my jam. I definitely empathize with it. But I just felt like just frustrated, I guess, with the ending. And maybe if there had been a little bit more time for conversations at the ending, maybe it would have been a little bit more worthwhile. I mean, there are definitely parts about the ending that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed I enjoyed that whole scene with Mal and Alina where essentially he is just dying. I enjoyed all of the talk with Genya, and I enjoyed all of like some other side characters. I wish that we could find out more stories about Tamar and Tolia. That would be super cool. But yeah, I just guess I felt a little bit frustrated. I felt a little bit frustrated as well that like now Mal and Alina can finally work over their differences because now they don't have any powers. And I felt like, I don't know. I feel like Alina at the beginning felt that she wasn't special. She was kind of just like, oh, I'm just a map maker. Like, I'm no one special. And then she was placed in this position of super specialness. And then kind of wrapping her head around, oh, I didn't realize I was special all along. And so now I'm embracing my specialness. And now at the end, it's like, oh, well, you're not special. You're not powerful anymore. And okay, that's not actually what I mean. I still think, you know, Alina's a special person. I still think she has her own sense of power as a person. But I'm talking about like special as Sun Summoner and like powerful as kind of Grisha magic powerful. And so I just feel like as a character, I don't know how I feel about that character development. I don't know how I feel about that character evolution. And maybe I would feel a lot better if Alina had that choice when she got the third amplifier to give up the power. And that was a conscious choice. So I don't know. I just feel a little bit unfinished and uneasy about the ending. And a little bit kind of like, I don't know how I feel about the ending. So I don't know. Probably this is not a fulfilling like ending to this reading reaction, ending to this series. But I would really be interested to know from other people if they feel this way. Like, how did you feel about the ending? Try to keep like the specific spoilers, I guess, in the comments spoiler free. But also, yeah, did you feel this way? Do you feel like you were satisfied at the ending? I understand on a brain level, cosmic rightness level, I understand the threads and I understand why it ended the way it did, and I understand why certain things happened. But like, as a reader heart level perspective, I don't know if I can appreciate it as much as I want to, and I don't know if I feel as good about that as I want to. A lot of in other books where I've seen this cosmic rightness, I felt really good about it because I felt like, hey, you also maintain the integrity of the character. Like, yes, this is, you know, maybe not the ending that I wanted in my heart of hearts, but it's the ending that felt right. Whereas here, it's kind of like, I understand why this ending had to be what it is, but it doesn't still feel right to me. And maybe with time, those two kinds of feelings will get closer and closer together. But right now, yeah, I just feel kind of like not resolved, I guess, about how I feel about Alina's powers. And I also felt like maybe this is a personal thing. Maybe this is me not understanding it. But I also felt like there was no reason that Mal and Alina couldn't really be together, except that Mal and Alina, as people at that point, could not be together. And I guess that's confusing, so I will explain. I felt like there is a will and there could have been a way for them to be together. I understand that like Alina is a super powerful person, but also, to be fair, Mal was super talented as well. But I felt like Mal also didn't want to, like the song Peace by Taylor Swift, Mal didn't want to like be in that sphere, and Mal didn't want to have to understand that there were, you know, games Alina had to play, there were sacrifices, compromises, consequences that Alina had to pay. And I felt like Mal had been very stuck looking at Alina as past Alina. And then I felt a little bit better about them in Siege and Storm because they kind of realized, okay, we want different things, we want different pieces of each other, and, you know, that's okay. And I was kind of like, okay, very valid. I guess you just can't be together. And now it's kind of like, oh yeah, you can be together now that you both don't have any magic. And I just don't know how I feel about that. I almost feel like, yes, that is super convenient. It's convenient that the main obstacle that was keeping them apart is gone. And so it's kind of like, I guess that it sums up my feelings, right? I think that a lot of things were quote unquote convenient, but I don't know how right they were and how right they felt to me. And I felt like specifically with Mal and Lena, it just felt really convenient that like the main obstacle that was standing in their way is gone, and so now that they can be happily together. And it's not that I don't want them to be happy. I think they're happy. I really loved that after chapter. Thought it was super, super cute. But from a kind of like, ooh, kind of a second step to the aw moment, I'm kind of like, well, right? And so I feel a little bit more about that, the Mal and Alina part, than I do about the whole kind of like 3 amplifier does poof kind of thing. Although I also felt like, well, why did you make the 3rd amplifier? I have still questions about that and the lore around it, basically. And yeah, if you can please explain that to me, please do. If you don't want to do it in the comments, you can find me on social media and you can just like message me essentially. But yeah, I don't know, I guess, or my main feeling about the ending of it is kind of the Mal and Alina part, because that became so central to the entire book series, you know, like this relationship, this friendship, this person in your life that you kind of have this connection to, and not knowing how you resolve that. Like that was a really big part of this series. And so I guess that's kind of just how I feel. Hold up. I've had a couple of days to think about Rune and Rising, and I am just, my frustration has solidified into just anger and disappointment. At first I was thinking, oh, well, I hadn't written my review yet, and so I have written my review now. And at first I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'm just coming from a perspective where, you know, I don't love this series necessarily, and so that's why I'm having trouble with it. After reading reviews, and also specifically Mal's review, so I'll leave Mal's link and like review in the description box below, and it's just like, yes, I felt a little bit more justified now in voicing my anger and my disappointment, because I feel like Alina and Mal's like relationship and how that worked just felt so convenient and so unsatisfying. Like, I don't know, I can't get over it. And as I was writing my review, which on my blog, it's spoiler free. So on my writing my review on the blog, I was kind of just like, everything felt too convenient and I'm so angry. And then I was thinking about it and it's like, yeah, everything did feel too convenient and I am angry. And then I was like, you know where I can put this anger? This review, because this review is spoilered. So even like my Goodreads one as well is not spoilered. So I also on Goodreads aren't like, oh, you know, right? So this is where, right here, is where I get to be like, what a disappointment. And what an angry thing. I'm so angry. The whole time I wanted Alina to kind of like do her own thing and not need anyone and just choose like who she wanted, if she wanted anybody, irrespective from like her and her powers and everything like that. And now, you know, with how it ended, it's just like, it's just so annoying. It is so annoying. It is so frustrating. And I'm just like so upset. And I don't know, for now out of spite, I don't know if I'm going to now buy a copy of Rune and Rising. Because before I was like, oh, you know, I should have it in my collection because I have 1 and 2 and like, might as well have 3. But I've been thinking about it and now I don't want to. Now I just feel a little bit like, no. So I don't know, that's just me coming in to like pop in and say, I'm not done thinking about it. I'm not done being angry about it. This is where I still am. And maybe like my feelings and intensity of my feelings will kind of, you know, disperse and get a little bit less intense. But as now, and now I'm like maybe 4-ish, 5 days from when I finished, it's solidified into anger, right? I'm going through the like 5 or 7, you know, whatever stages of reaction, I guess. And so now I'm pretty sure emotionally I know how I feel, and emotionally I feel upset. This is how it is. I hope that you enjoyed kind of this series, and I hope that you enjoyed watching me go through this. If you did, let me know. I would love to do this for other series. If you didn't, also let me know. I'd love to not do it for other series if no one wants to see it. So I hope that this kind of gave you a little bit of an insight. As I said, going to be watching probably the Netflix series just kind of to see. I'm very curious about what they've done with Alina's biracial identity. And also, I'm kind of now really interested in reading King of Scars, especially if it has Nikolai in it. Would be even better if it had Tamar and Tolia. Would be great. Or if it even had, like, I really like Genya, Zoya, and David. So it would be really great if I could see these characters. And also, I guess, bridge more of the gap between Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows, perhaps. I'm not sure timeline, like, where all of these different stories fit in. Anyway, have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.